Welcome back. My name is Jason, and I'm going to be reviewing Larklight by Philip Reeve today. I really like this book. I read it myself, and then I read it to my kids. I like to read to my kids. I read to them at bedtime, and this is one of the books that I read to them. So, when the book first opens, it opens in a place called Larklight, and it opens in an alternate universe where Britain, the British Empire, is still existent, and Art and his sister Myrtle are members of the British Empire. They're subjects of the British Empire is what I should say. And they live in a house that floats out past in space out past the moon. You'll notice the kind of period costumes they're wearing on the front of this. This is very much a steampunk genre novel, and Sir Isaac Newton came up with this alchemical, they call it the alchemical wedding, and it's a process of combustion that allows for faster than light travel. Yeah, I mean, it's you're looking at that ship. That ship belongs to Captain Jack Havoc. He's a pirate, and he flies and raids and all that stuff in space. And so this happens in our solar system, but obviously in a different set of physics and things. Being on a planet, most of the planets in the solar system have atmospheres and have things that live there. For instance, they run into a creature on the moon called the Potter Moth. And there's an analog of the Potter Moth on Earth where it traps a spider usually, or some other insect, and lays its eggs on it, and the egg hatches, and so this Potter Moth lives on the moon. Anyway, like I said, it opens up in Larklight. It's a kind of a space station, but think of it as a house floating out in space. And this house is out past the moon, and Arthur lives there with his sister Myrtle and their father. And one day, these big spiders show up and attack their house. Arthur and his sister manage to escape, but their father, they have to leave behind, and they figure that he's been killed by these spiders. They end up on the moon. They get in a lifeboat, not escape pod, a lifeboat, and they launch from their house. They end up on the moon. On the moon is where they encounter Captain Jack Havoc, and this is very much a kid's book. The main characters are Art and his sister and Captain Jack. They're all in their kind of teenage years. Arthur, if I remember, is 11. Myrtle, I think, is 15, and Jack is 16. So they're very much in that age range. And they have various adventures in trying to flee from these spiders and figure out what on earth is going on, why these spiders are attacking their house. It's interesting to me. They go from Larklight, they go to the moon, they go to Venus, they go to the moons of Jupiter, they go to Mars. All of these places in the solar system have I shouldn't say sentient. All of them have some form of life living on them. Some of them sentient, some of them not. If you look at the cover there that I've got behind me, you'll notice a couple of aliens standing behind the three kids. One looks kind of crab-like, and the other has tentacles coming out of its head. Nipper, the crab alien, is a friend of Captain Jack's. So is the tentacled one. I don't remember what its name is, Yarg or Squidly, or the two. They call them tentacle twins, and they're twins. But they are members of Captain Jack's crew that come from some planet in the solar system. You'll also notice those floating pig things there on the cover. They're called hoverhogs, and they are often used in space to clean ships. They fly around and suck up all the crumbs and stuff that kind of float around. So there's a big to-do surrounding the Mumby children and these spiders that are pursuing them through the solar system. And Jack and his crew, they may be pirates, but they help Art and his crew, Art and his sister. They help them to figure out what's going on, why the spiders are attacked their house, what was so special about it, and even what the place of the spiders, and not just the spiders, but all the sentient races in the universe, right, in the solar system. What is their place in this kind of, what's been going on and whatnot. So I very much enjoyed this. I do have a soft spot is not really the right word. I am very interested in the steampunk genre. I have read a number of books, not all of them that great, but this is one that I very much enjoyed. I liked the melding of the kind of the age of piracy and the expansionist the England's expansion and growth as an empire, and kind of these spaceships. They're spaceship battles, but they're firing cannons at each other rather than firing energy weapons or something. So the ships would do traditional naval tactics, where one ship goes alongside the other ship and they try to fire the broadside, where all the cannons are able to fire back and forth. Arthur, it's funny. Arthur, it's written kind of from a standpoint of Arthur's writing the story. Every once in a while he will include excerpts from his sister's journal, and he mentions as he does so that he's sure that if Myrtle ever found out, that she would not be very happy. And there's very much that British stiff upper lip vibe going on with Myrtle and Art. They realize that their father has most likely been eaten by these spiders, and they're like, we must carry on. It's it's the British thing to do, they have a lot of the tropes that you see in the steampunk kind of thing. A lot of metals and brass fittings and the old-fashioned kind of what we would think of as old-fashioned from that particular time and period, along with the sensibilities. Sorry for the interruption. Couple of things that were, to me, very interesting about the book was Art is the one who's narrating most of this. And so there's a couple of things about the narration that really intrigued me. Art definitely couldn't see certain things that were going on around him because he was an 11-year-old. He'd never had had experience of that nature, and so it made for some interesting situations where I'm sitting there chuckling to myself because I see what's going on, but Art doesn't get it. He does get clued into it later, obviously. Somebody makes him wise to the situation, and he's suitably dumbfounded at that point. But anyway, if you're thinking about a book for maybe kids, you're looking for something that you can read to some kids, this one is a very good book to read. Very interesting. There are 2 more books in the series after Larklight that I know of, and I'm looking forward to getting those and reading them myself and reading them to my kids. My kids very much were fans of this book, so way to go, Philip Reeve. definitely a good read. Now, if you have questions or comments, please let me know down below, and like and subscribe to get more of these videos.